Oh, welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. We got a huge show for you today. We're going to have Lathan Ransom join the program again, like he does here at the beginning of the week. Way to start the week with Lathan. He's down in warm Orlando, I believe. Catch up with him, see what he's doing, how that training's going, see his thoughts maybe on the hire, what made Jim Knowles so special, changes in the defense. Just some of the things with all this stuff going around. Get an opinion of a guy like who's most recently inside of it. But here, coming off of the weekend in Columbus, Ohio, got big snow over the weekend here. How are we doing with that snow driving, Schleiks?
It was absolutely terrible. What normally takes 45 minutes took an hour and a half. Being cautious, a lot of random cars over in the ditches. I just put in 4-wheel drive and went at a reasonable speed to where I can control, and I would test the brakes a little bit, make sure I could stop in appropriate time, and also have some awareness of my surroundings. But it was quite the thing to wake up in the morning like, oh, this is really going down right now in Columbus, Ohio, which is very weird for us in the middle of February. You know how it is, like this is like one of the coldest winters we've ever had in Ohio. And then we've had snow. It's just like, it's been crazy. I like snow, so I'd have no problem, but it does make logistical challenges as you go throughout your week though.
Was it hard? I'm going to ask Lathan this. Was it hard for you? Like, you grew up in Texas, not really much snow there. Like, that's where you learned to drive. I
Yes.
guess you went to Air Force, so there was like probably some snow, I'm guessing, in Colorado Springs, but like not driving the snow probably a lot as a younger person. Like, was it
Yeah.
tough when you had your first big snows driving in it?
I think my dad did a really good job of training me. So this is how my dad trained all of us. He always drove like a stick. And even in like, he had an S10 at one point, then he had a truck. And we
Well,
would
that's 10 is
every,
a truck,
was that?
and that's
Oh, I
10 is
know, but then he had like a 1500,
like a
right?
bigger one. Okay, full
Like a
size.
bigger one. So we always went to Iowa every year to see my grandparents. They lived in Dubuque, Iowa. Dubuque is very, very hilly. It's right off the Mississippi River, lots of hills. And I'm probably 14 at the time. And he pulls through McDonald's. And of course, I like quarter pounder with cheese. And at that time, it was ketchup and pickles only. He just made it to where it was everything in it because I didn't like it, and he thought that was making me tougher. So I would have a fry, a large Coke, double quarter pounder with cheese. He said, "You're up." And I'm like, and I've been driving around a little bit, but he made me drive and eat with the stick shift, like up the hills. That's how my dad taught me how to drive from a very early age. So by the time I was 15, driving a Lincoln or anything like that in the snow, I felt supremely confident because I could go up and down hills with a stick shift while eating a quarter pounder cheese, large fry, and a large Coke uh, at the same time when I was 14 years old. So he did a great job preparing me for sudden change, whether it's you got to drive this or we're in snow. So I always felt supremely confident.
That is remarkable that most people it's very counterculture, Schleiks, because most parents would try to eliminate the distracted driving. Your father rather leaned into it and said,
Yes.
"Listen, I'm going to give you as many distractions as possible, and not just looking at the phone. Like, I'm going to give you things where driving a stick, which my Jeep is, like, it's a two-handed operation. Like, to talk on the phone and do it is very, very difficult. Let alone like try to text or do anything else, or even eat Schleiks. And that to me, like, can you describe to me the process of like how? I mean, you've got to have like were you like me on the wheel trying to use one hand to eat, other hand to like stick drive?
Well,
how would you?
like, you have a cup holder, right? So you have a cup holder, and then I had like the sandwich in my lap, the fries on my thigh, like next to my thigh between the console. You know what I'm saying? So you're
Yeah.
going boom, pop the clutch, shift, over, grab some fries, boom, grab the thing, right? Like did I make a mess? 100%. That wasn't the point. It was the ability to operate and do multiple things at the same time and have an order. Plus, I think it heightens your awareness of your surroundings. And now we all know, right? Texting and driving, bad. Having things around you that distractive driving, bad. However, I would say in the safe confines of driving up an enormous hill during the middle of the day with less traffic, was he necessarily worried about the other cars? Probably. But this is also talking to the same man that pulled a Yui on the side of, what the hell was that mountain in Colorado? Pikes Peak. I shit you not. We're at Pikes Peak. And my dad, we get up there and praise God, nobody was coming back down because they would have killed us and we would have gone off the cliff because there was no guardrails. And he like maneuvered this vehicle, this big vehicle on the side of that road all the way around. He still sends us today laughing like, I thought we were going to die. I was like, I didn't mean to put you in that situation. So anyways, like, you know what though? It made me a better driver.
That's the moral of the story, that maybe Raj had it figured out. Maybe lean in, parents, to the distracted driving while you're with your kid. Be like, hey, send this text. I'm right beside you.
You
Look
see
at the
how
road.
bad
Send
this
the
is?
text.
Look how
at the
bad
road.
this is. Distracted, right? Like,
I give them
this is
credit
not what you.
because most people, Schlegs, they wouldn't have the courage to sit shotgun. Like, not only was like he risking your life, but he was also risking his own. So
Yeah.
like that's why I think a lot of parents like, dude, my mom was like panicked as hell the first time I was driving. They're worried they're gonna die. And they're just like, yeah, you're gonna hit a mailbox. Get more to the middle, not that far in the middle. There's cars coming. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? And he was probably eating himself like dinner in a show, watching you try to juggle all of this stuff.
Yes.
I mean, maybe did he have a healthy disregard for his life? Fine. I mean, on the way over, like I'm talking Schlegs about the American Airlines flight that's delayed because we lost the gas cap on Saturday when I'm trying to get back to see my kids and see my family. Just wanted to get home. Loved the time we spent in Cuba. We'll get to all that, but just really wanted to get home. And so I'm trying my best to get back. And they're like, we're delayed out of Jacksonville. Your neck of the woods, Schlegs. I have to go to Charlotte. I'm like, I have an hour and a half connection. I'm just watching that time getting eaten up because why?
Yeah.
We don't have a gas cap. And people are like, just be glad they're safe. I'm like, no, my risk profile is different than other people. They're like, all right, listen, man, I'm a man of faith. I've done most of what I wanted to do in life. Just take the damn plane off. I want to start an airline that will give you, we'll be on time more than anyone else. Now, there's also some safety, some corners we're going to cut. And are you willing to do that? Are you willing to say, hey, I want to get where I'm going in an expedient manner, and maybe we're going to shave 10% off the risk profile? I'm fine with that. I'm good. Instead of one, like every 10,000 crashes, we're going to hack it down to like, or 100,000, we're hacking it down to 10. I'm fine with that. I would be okay. Like, it's all right with me.
The bigger question is, why didn't they, like, you would think like a gas cap would be something that you would have an abundance of, you know?
My question is, where did you go with it? Did you put it in your pocket and the refueler just drove off?
Yeah.
Like, where did it go? Just drop it? Like the tarmac, so like, it's pretty wide open. You know, like it should be on the ground somewhere down there. They had to go get a new one. But like it took 40 minutes. And I made my flight. But I mean, anyone goes through Charlotte, I was all the way at the end of E, 36.
Charlotte's different, man. Charlotte's different.
We came in, I was at the end of C. I had to go to the end of E, which I have measured that on my watch before because I've run it and made it in 8 minutes. It is 0.83 miles from the end of like A, B, and C. Like they're a little further, some of them, but it was far. And if you have to, now I didn't have to sprint this time, but I was on like a pretty healthy jog walk back and forth and got there like right as they were like loading up. So it wasn't bad. But
and Charlotte has good restaurants because it's like, man, I got to hit my connection. And then there goes Chipotle. There goes Chick-fil-A. There goes like, I was like, oh, I can't stop. I got to go. I was planning on eating there.
Really bad. Yeah. I was like, I'd rather pee my pants on this plane than not make it. So like those are all the things there. We got some pictures and a bunch of stuff.
I can't wait to see.
That I'm going to show. Oh yeah, Schlegs. I got a lot of sweet challenge coins. You got a lot of cool stuff. But we got Lathan Ransom. He's going to be talking to us here. Anything particular, Schlegs, what you want to ask Lathan today?
No, I'm excited to ask Lathan about, you know, when Denzel was talking about simplifying the defense and what does actually simplifying mean in his terms. And then also, you know, him coming in from a different perspective when he was there before Knowles was there. So what did that look like that first year and then maturing into that? And then also, how difficult is that for the younger guys that you have coming back when you have lost 8 starters of those guys learning potentially a new system or at least half of a new system?
Great questions. We'll get all those for you here coming up next with our guy Lathan Ransom. But first, parents and athletes, protect what matters most with Export mouth guards, trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists, and supported by Tiki Barber. Export mouth guards are scientifically tested to absorb the high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including patented use of carbon fiber, custom fit to your unique smile with 3D printed technology. That means more protection, better performance, max comfort, clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chance with your safety. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby today and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. Lathan Ransom coming up next.
Welcome to Big Play, the fastest growing sports media company in America.
I'm gonna keep it straight with you. The reason you should watch our show is because I look good, baby.
Come get some!
Join our millions of fans for live sports talk shows hosted by the top former athletes and sports personalities in the industry.
Ohio, it's my home state.
They say I'm a diehard Cleveland sports fan.
Watch what you want, where you want, when you want. Welcome to Big Play.
Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and we've got our guy, Mr. Lathan Ransom, with us next. But yeah, those questions, Slice, that you had are going to be very interesting to ask and to kind of talk about, because he was a guy that was a young dude that had a new defense that played a lot early on, but then did have to reconfigure. All right, here he is, Lathan. So, Slice, I'm going to let you fire away.
I'm going to fire away.
You're down in sunny Florida, Lathan. It's nice. It's snowy up here in Ohio, so I'm sure you're enjoying this. Before we ask any football stuff, you maybe were hearing some of the questions of the snow talk. You grew up in Arizona. Your first time driving in the snow was what for you?
It was actually a nightmare. I had this is when I didn't have a car, and I had to borrow Cam Martinez's car a lot. And I don't know what made me decide, but I wanted to go to Dick's Sporting Goods, and it's about 20 minutes from where I was staying at. And it wasn't snowing when I had left, so I leave, and you could see the snow. It was coming down very lightly. And then all of a sudden it starts coming down really crazy, coming down hard, and I can't see. I've never driven in the snow, so I'm gripping the steering wheel extremely tight. I'm scared. All the cars are driving slow. Everyone has their hazard lights on, and I was definitely freaking out. I definitely took my time in Dick's Sporting Goods, hoping that the snow would stop before I left back home. But it definitely took some time to get used to. I remember I never used one of the scrapers to scrape the windows and the stuff off. I was just using my hands and covering my hair in my shirt. All that stuff took a lot of time to get used to, man, but eventually it did.
I love it. As you get older, when you're young, it's like, man, you know what? I want to go to Dick's Sporting Goods because I got some time to kill and I got some money burning a hole in my pocket. So let's go check out what they got, or maybe I want to try on some things. Then you get older, it's like, man, light snow, I don't even want to get out. Like, it's not worth it. I'll replan this schedule. So let's talk. We got new D coordinator, Matt Patricia, coming from the NFL. Lathan, you were there. The first question is this. We heard Denzel talk about, a change after that first Oregon game of simplifying the defense. But what actually is simplifying the defense? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I think simplifying the defense for us wasn't like we're changing a bunch of calls or changing our scheme or changing what we do. It's really just maybe not going in with as many calls as we went in with the game before and just letting our defenses play. I actually heard the podcast yesterday where Bryce Young was talking about the different defenses of what the Eagles do and what the Chiefs do. And he was talking about how the Eagles have an extremely simple defense, one of the most simple defense he played against, but they execute at such a high level, so that makes them so well. To where the Chiefs they do so many different things with different fronts, different blitzes, different schemes and different personnels, and they do that at a high level. So I think it was more of us kind of figuring out our identity, and that was just, lining up, playing fast, and communicating and executing at a high level. And I think that's what the changes we made were.
It's interesting because you could see that, when you're doing when you're doing a lot of stuff, like is there a hesitancy, Lathan? I mean, where you're thinking maybe more about, excuse me, what you're doing than maybe what the opposition and leaning in on maybe some of the scouting and the game plan stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sometimes when you're going with a lot of calls, or you going maybe just thinking about maybe so much of, oh, they could do this, they could do that, or maybe they can do this, other than just lining up, reading your keys and playing, it could slow you down. But at the end of the day, man, I'll never put it on to where we had too many calls or this or that. At the end of the day, we had to execute, and I don't think as a team that we executed, before we made them changes. And I think that was more of an eye opener to us, to how serious and how specific we got to be in our cues and how much we got to execute at a high level. And then I think that's what we started doing. I don't know if it was more of a scheme or more of just a wake up call to the defense, of paying attention to our keys and flying around, communicating and executing at a high level.
Yeah, communication is the biggest thing on defense, because offensively they're always trying to make you communicate 3 times, and the better you are at that, the faster you can play, the better you can execute. You're a sophomore. Jim Knowles comes in, completely different persona, different way that he coaches, especially a different way in which he speaks, because he has kind of like a high-pitched tone to his voice. How was that going from a previous defense, learning what needed to come in, and then going out and executing that defense with Jim Knowles when he came in?
Yeah, I think it definitely had its challenges, man, especially for me. When he first got there, I was actually just coming back from my leg injury, so I didn't get to play in the spring. So I really had to learn the defense without practicing in it, just behind the scenes on the board. And I think that a lot of it's up to, the player and how much you want to learn. I think I did a great job of getting with some of the new staff, and every time that I got a chance, I'm meeting with them, knowing that I can't get them reps on the field, but getting as many mental reps as I can, to where when fall camp came around, it wasn't like I missed spring ball. It was almost like I got a chance to learn from all the mistakes that I was watching the DBs ahead of me make during spring ball. I got to learn and make sure I didn't make those mistakes. But it was awesome to have Coach Knowles come in. I think that his defense was so excited and playing, because a lot of the pressure was on the safeties to make a lot of plays and to execute at a high level, and that's what I wanted to be in. Also, I just appreciate, Coach Combs and the coaches I had before, because I got to learn multiple schemes. I think that was really important for me to understand defenses is playing in multiple schemes and how some carry over and some don't. And I enjoy playing for all the coaches that I got to play for at Ohio State.
So one of the things that people have talked about is, you start talking about recruiting, scheme is important and it's big, but getting great players obviously helps a lot too. Who was your coach that recruited you? Was that Kerry?
Jeff Hafley, actually. I committed to Jeff Hafley. I fell in love with his defense and was so excited to play for him. And then I understood and learned really quickly that college football is about a business, man. And he left, and I still committed to Ohio State. I committed to the program, to the culture. I loved Coach Day, and it ended up working out.
So talk a little, and that's amazing that happened, because he left and you still decided to come, but committing to the program, and then the relationship with like your position coach. They've talked about because Jim didn't really recruit a whole bunch. And it was mostly the position coaches. Hafley obviously did, younger guy, and you obviously liked him and had a good relationship. But that relationship with your position coach, maybe even over the coordinator.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing is what I learned about, and I think what's so special these last couple of years is, like I just said, when I committed here, I had a close relationship with Coach Hafley. He left, and now I'm committed to a coach I really don't know. I mean, I met Coach Combs over the phone, and then really met him the first time in person when I got on campus, and really, try to build a relationship with him, built a pretty good one. And then, then I had Coach Eliano, built a good relationship with Coach Eliano, was really close with him. And then also Coach G was on that staff. And then bringing Coach G back meant a lot, because Coach Day had kind of talked to me before that, talking about how he wants to bring a guy that we already knew, and Coach G, and I had a great relationship with Coach G before. And then it's just, when you have someone like Coach G and Coach Walton, who I also have a great relationship for, to go out there and play out as hard as I can for them, it makes it so much easier, man, to when you're facing adversity, stuff's hitting the fan when you're out there and bullets are flying, but I got a guy I can lean on, I got a guy I have a great relationship with, and it makes you going out there executing at a high level so much easier.
Yeah, I hear you guys talking ball all the time, asking questions, and it's so important. And the reason that we're asking these, Lathan, is because everybody's talking about that. You got to have for some reason, people think that the coordinators do all things, and it's really the position coach that are in the weeds with the players all the time, and why that is so important that they kept the continuity of the defensive staff while bringing in somebody from the outside. And I believe that it's really to sharpen the sword of everybody in Ohio State football, because we're now chasing the 1% of 1% to go win another national championship. Let's talk about What are going to be some of the things, the struggles, the trials and tribulations that now 8 new starters face? Coming in after the departure of such veteran guys. Granted, you got IGB, you got Caleb, you got Sonny back, guys that played a lot of ball, guys that know a lot of ball. But what are those other 8 guys going to face as they come in, learn a new system, and try to uphold the standard of the silver bullet defense, which you guys laid at the highest of high levels last season?
Going to face a lot of challenges. I think they're going to do a great job coming over. I mean, like you said, last year we had such a veteran group, some guys that played a lot of ball, faced a lot of challenges, to where when we came back this year, there was no reteaching us scheme, no reteaching us plays. It was a lot of stuff that we already had known. So I think I don't know too much about the coach bringing in, but the biggest thing is first of all learning the scheme, understanding the scheme. When you have a great understanding of why you call certain plays, why we run certain plays, why we fit stuff a certain way, it makes you be able to play at such a high level. So I think for those guys, first of all, understanding the scheme, learning the scheme, understand why we do certain things in certain situations, start to get a feel for, the coach's play calls, what he likes to call on first down, second down, third down, in the red area, on the 50-yard line, backed up, get an understanding for him. I think our defense had a great feel for, what coach knows like to call in certain situations. And then leadership, man. I think, like you said, IGB, Sonny, Caleb are going to do Kenyatta are going to do such a great job, taking as new leadership roles and running our defense. And I'm going to talk crap and still compete with them, saying they're not going to be better than our defense was, but I'm excited to watch them fly around and make a lot of plays.
It is. Those guys, they'll do a great job, and you've trained them really well. We'll get into that in a little bit here in a minute. I want to ask, like, the changing of scheme, and the changing of the terminology, like, how tough is that to grasp? Some people will call, something, maybe cover 3 or 4. People call it palms. Like, there's different verbiage that's used and and you went through a number of iterations of that. Like, is that tough making that initial transition where, I mean, I tell someone it's kind of like flipping from like French to, Spanish. Like, there's similarities, but yeah, there's going to be some differences of when you're trying to communicate with your coach or maybe other players.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that there's definitely a learning period, a grace period, to where the coach got to understand that it's going to take some time before we learn this terminology and learn the scheme. But I think that's a challenge to the players. One thing I did is, if I didn't understand something when we went over the meeting, I definitely was taking my time to go back and meet with the coaches and bug the coaches as much as I can until I understood it. And I think that's where a way I try to separate myself was never not knowing the answer. Always ask as many questions as I can. I think I learned that from Cody. Cody's going to ask 100 questions, 1,000 questions until he knows the exact answer. And I think that's a big thing. And that's what I challenge, the younger guys to do is don't just say, yes, you understand it when you don't. Go out there, ask as many questions and be a sponge, man, and be a sponge to the game.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We got more with Lathan Ransom coming up next.
Welcome to Big Play, the fastest growing sports media company in America.
I'm gonna keep it straight with you. The reason you should watch our show is because I look good, baby.
Come get some!
Join our millions of fans for live sports talk shows hosted by the top former athletes and sports personalities in the industry.
Ohio, it's my home state.
Obviously, I'm a diehard Cleveland sports fan.
Watch what you want, where you want, when you want. Welcome to Big Play.
All right, Schlegs, I know you got some other questions out there. So we're still here with our guy, Lathan Ransom. Fire away, Schlegs.
Yeah. So Lathan, when you were thinking about scheme terminology, I got this is a 2-part question. So I want you to answer the first one first. How critical then is spring? We all know how important the offseason is, like in the weight room, and how you build a team and what Coach Mick does and the staff to build it. But how critical is it during this time to like get in the weeds of the defense to be able to go out there and start fast for spring football? And how important is that spring football?
Yeah, I think what Coach Mick does such a great job at is right now he's building that team camaraderie. He's building our toughness. He's building our character. And I know them guys are having some tough workouts right now and going through it as, them workouts start. And then, yeah, I think that you don't have to jump too much into it and rush into it to where – because I don't know how much the coaches are around right now because, there's a lot of recruiting going on. I don't remember the exact time period. But, I think definitely get into it, start to learn as much as you can without overloading your brain because I think it's easier to learn as you're going through the walkthroughs and get into practices, but definitely start looking over it, learning the play calls, learning the terminology is big right now to where, like you said, when you get to them practices, it's not a lot of them first three installs. You shouldn't be just seeing those for the first time. I think that them first three installs should be this your second time seeing them, third time, so you start get an understanding, and then it make it easier transition as we get into them, fifth, sixth, seventh install.
So then that goes into the next one, because Bob and I have been talking about how I would love that there is one transfer portal. And to me, it should coincide with the academic calendar. And now you have it to where it's like in the summer. Would you be able to get out what you need in a condensed version of spring football like they do in the NFL with OTAs, where it might be 4 or 5 weeks there, in May and in June, to then have a break and then go into camp? Do you think it's feasible for college athletes to be able to go do that as opposed to going through spring, having a bigger lull, and then going into camp?
Yeah, I think that more talks about what type of guys you have in your team. I think the biggest issue and what makes people so nervous to do that is what are the players going to do on their free time? What are they going to do when they're given this much time off? How are they going to act? Are they going to stay on top of their workouts? They're going to stay on top of their body? Because when you get to the NFL, man, it's a league. These are grown men. This is a business. If you don't get on top of your body and do this, you're going to get cut. You're going to get fired. And you can't really fire guys in college football. So I think that's the biggest thing is, can we trust these guys to be adults? Because, they're getting paid like adults now. Can we trust them to be adults? So I think that would be the biggest question. And but me personally, I feel like Ohio State would be able to do it, especially, us going so far into the season, going to the playoffs, maybe giving a little time for their body to recover and rest before a long, big season. I think there's, pros and cons to both. It's really just the maturity of the guys in your room and the guys in your building.
So let's talk a little combine prep. What do we got going here? How's the body feeling? I know you have some of the meetings where you do the meeting prep. How's all that going? And what's been your favorite part, I guess?
Been great. I think the favorite part is, just being able to focus completely on football, man. Nothing else, nothing worry. And then I'm enjoying everything, whether it's getting my body right, preparing for the draft, doing little combine meetings, talking to some of these, coaches. This has been a dream of mine since I was a younger kid. So even if it's a lot of meetings, a lot of treatment, a lot of this, I love it all. Like, I'm so happy to be able to do this. I'm so blessed by God to, be able to try to continue my dream. And it's just so exciting, man. I think some of my favorite stuff is just getting able to compete against some of these guys out here, different DBs, talk a little trash to the receivers. That's what I love the most.
So what if they told you do these meeting prep and everybody's got, their own questions and everyone's got their red flags, and what those red flags are is different for every guy. But, I'm defensive coordinator of X team and whatever it is. And I'm sitting here looking at Lathan Ransom. Like, I can't draft you, Lathan. You got great film. We like you. Maybe you're not the fastest guy in the world, but dude, you get hurt all the time. Like, how am I supposed to draft a guy like you that, you breaking legs, your foot, is it still even on? Like, do you guys glue that thing on? Like, how are we going to answer that question?
I'm going to answer as you can look at multiple injuries to where I've broken my hand 2 times on a Tuesday practice, got surgery on Wednesday, and played on the game on Saturday. So I'm not a guy, if you want to talk about injuries, that's going to sit out. A guy's not going to play. I broke my leg on the last game of the season, had the fastest leg recovery that Stu's ever seen or our staff has ever seen, and came back in 4 months and was able to play in that first game when no one thought I was. So if they want to say I'm a guy that gets injured a lot, it's because I'm a guy that plays as hard as I can and a guy that, has no fear for his body and will do anything I can for the team and what I can to put my body on the line for help us win games. That's how I'd answer that.
I love it. That's a great answer. And that's one that they want because you are a culture type guy that people want in the NFL. Let's talk strategy, because guys at Ohio State are behind the 8 ball. And that's the reality of the situation. As you go on to win a natty on January 20th, you then literally have like 5 weeks of prep. Whereas other guys, that didn't go to the playoffs or didn't play in a bowl game, or even if they did play in a bowl game, they could have opted out. They got a whole other month of training leg up on you. Whereas now you're like, okay, combine's coming up. Then you also have pro day. What does that strategy look like for you, Lathan, or other guys that you talk to on the Buckeyes, where it's like, hey, I'm probably not going to do X, Y, and Z at the combine because I do need a little bit more prep so I can put my best foot forward. What does that look like for you going into this combine and pro day?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, talking to the team around me, what the best options are, what the best, strategies are going in hand. The hardest thing for me is being a competitor, going to the combine and seeing other, DBs and safeties do all the drills while maybe I might not do one or two. It's hard for me because I want to go out there and compete against these guys. But like you said, man, I think after that game, I needed like a week and a half just for my body to recover, and then really started my training. And I'm probably going to be training for 3.5 weeks before we get to the combine, where against dudes that have been training for 8 weeks, 9 weeks, going into that. So it's really just, trying to put my pride aside and do what's best for me so I could go out there and run the fastest times, look the best in the drills. But I mean, I'm excited for the combine, man, to go out there, get in front of these coaches, be able to speak to them, get in front, doing some of my drills. But yeah, I think that's the hardest thing is, just picking the smartest thing to do going forward.
What's it been like training with these other guys? Because the combine is always a unique mix, and you make friends, and like there are guys like, oh, and in the league, I train with about 7 or 8 different dudes. And there's a little competitiveness, obviously, but a little camaraderie as well. But you take like the Ohio State way of training and everything. What's it been like training with those other guys and seeing how they've brought stuff to the table and how they train? I'm sure you guys have talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think definitely when you start comparing the way that their team would do stuff and their team would run stuff comparing to ours, you find a lot of differences or similarities. But I think I'm surrounded by guys that are a lot like me that come here to work hard with a big chip on their shoulder, compete at a high level and do everything they can, to do extra work and get ahead of guys maybe training other places. So I think I've been blessed in that aspect.
How has it been? How has it been? Now you got Viv, your girlfriend. She played a professional soccer player, man. She's an athlete in and of herself, but here you are like on this journey away from everybody, doing your work. How is that in the mix now? How's that been?
It's been a lot of fun. I mean, supporting her as, their journey's a little different from, getting ready to go into pro football. But supporting her through everything. She trains just as hard as me, trains extremely hard, works extremely hard. And then it's cool to see someone as passionate about this sport as I am about mine. I think that's something that I respect because I sometimes feel like people they just play sports just because they can. But she plays sports because she actually loves soccer just as much as I love football. So just supporting her as much as she can just like she supports me.
That's awesome, man. Well, Lathan, we appreciate you taking some time for us. I know you got a busy schedule. You get any new shows? I mean, have you been gaming? What was the movies you were trying to catch up on? I mean, did we get any of that done last week?
I've been playing the game a lot. I've been playing the game a lot of college football. Got to play as much as I can before my player's not on there no more. So, so yeah, just been enjoying these last couple of months as I can play with the Buckeyes.
Absolutely, sir. We appreciate it, dude. Enjoy it. We'll catch you up next week, find out some more stuff. And then combine date is when? February?
I know it's at the end of February. I don't know the exact date. I know I leave in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think safeties are last, like DBs are last. So you'll be wrapping that whole thing up there. So dude, good luck, and we'll talk to you again here before that and see how this training process continues to roll for you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
See you, brother.
Lathan Ransom, dude, our guy, one of our favorites. Awesome hearing his little journey schlags with everything. I want to throw that out there. I mean, I'm gonna get some other questions that people are gonna throw at him too. Because Schlags, we all sat in some of those meetings, and some of them are very normal. Hey, X's and O's, different things. And then some guys like, hey, why would we want to bring you in? The combine starts February 27th. Lathan probably won't be heading there till, I'm guessing, early March, because he'll be like the last group. But I mean, there's going to be people that will ask him, like, hey, dude, I love you as a player, but we can't draft you. You're too injured. And half of it is just hearing his response to it.
Right. And also they ask you questions about your teammates. Like they're going to dive into everything and they're going to see how you respond. And we've heard of people just absolutely asking asinine questions. But, I got questions about you. I got questions about AJ. We got questions about Quinn and all those type of guys, right? So it's, you got to be prepared to answer them all. Also speaking about yourself. But the biggest thing is, how do you convey like what you're going to bring to the table for somebody?
Yeah.
And that's it, right? So all these things are really good, but out of the mouth flow at the heart. And Lathan's that type of guy where I feel very, very confident that people are going to want him because of what he did and how he, like, his performance speaks for himself, but it's about how he led his team. Like, those are the things that you're seeing, these great teams that have sustainability. Like, Lathan's the type of guy that you want in the room.
You know, the one question, because I mean, I know you and I got this. I'm gonna have to ask him next week. Is, you know, Lathan, you had a pretty good career, hurt a lot, you know, but your best year came after Caleb Downs got there. Like, you're not gonna be playing with him. He's not gonna be there to carry you anymore, you know, in your production. So how are you supposed to be good? I mean, we think it was just all him, and you benefited from playing beside a great player. And just to hear your, like, his response, because that's stuff that, you know, we got asked, oh, you're playing with great guys, you're playing beside AJ. That makes it easy. Like, anybody can play beside him. It's so funny because they're waiting for you to chuck your teammate under the bus.
That's right.
I mean, the best. We'll get.
I had one about. I remember this very vividly. I had one about you, Bob, and it was, one, you were Bobby Carpenter, right? So we all know that. But two, it was like, you know, I was like, listen, man, I was like, Bobby is one of the most versatile people that I've ever played with. You have a guy that can play a stand-up night technique, cover the flat, blitz off the edge, then go into a nickel and put his hand in the ground. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't you want to play with somebody like that? Because it allows you to do multiple things at the same time, and he's going to play his absolute ass off. Next question. And that's, again, but that also, and that's, you know me, Bob, like, that's how I am, because you're going to challenge me. I'm going to come back and I'm going to challenge you. Like, what else do you have for me, bro? Yeah. You know, like, hey, why were you always the penetrator? Well, one, I'm really good at it, right? Just ask my wife. And then two, exactly. And then two, right? Because I was married already. So then two, it's like, you know, again, about AJ, or it had been about Dante, and like, all, like, what about Dante's height? Like, were you ever concerned, like, him playing a star nickel position? How's that going to, like, they would ask you these type of questions about how you think guys would fit in the league, you know, but you have to, what it does is it shows that you have a greater awareness than just yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to figure out.
We'll get into more of that here in tomorrow's show, because there's a whole litany of things we can get into. We're long for a break. We got our headlines coming up next.
Welcome to Big Play, the fastest growing sports media company in America.
I'm gonna keep it straight with you. The reason you should watch our show is because I look good, baby.
Come get some!
Join our millions of fans for live sports talk shows hosted by the top former athletes and sports personalities in the industry.
Ohio, it's my home state.
Obviously, I'm a diehard Cleveland sports fan.
Watch what you want, where you want, when you want. Welcome to Big Play.
All right, Schleeks, we got our headlines here. Most players of any team invited to the combine. There are 15 Buckeyes that have been invited to the combine. Is the record for players drafted 15 or 16 now? Ohio State did have it at 14. I think it was broken by LSU, I want to say, with 15. I think Georgia has tied it. But Ohio State having 15 is a pretty darn good start, and I think that speaks to the depth. And here's the other thing I told those guys this. You want more players drafted? Go win. Because when you win it all, everybody wants winners on their team.
Yeah. And you know, like, Josh Fryer wasn't invited to the combine. I
really
don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. And I just saw that. So I'm you know, Moose Buck threw that in there. I'll have to go look up and see if that actually was the case. But here's the deal. Here's the thing. Like, you guys got to remember this too. Just because you get invited to the combine doesn't mean that you're not going to get drafted. And just because you don't get drafted doesn't mean you're not going to have success. I mean, you look at the apex of Corey Lindsley. I think Corey was like anywhere between like a third or a fifth round pick. I think he might have been a fifth round pick, and he became the highest paid center in the NFL. You look at a guy in Andrew Norwell, who was an undrafted free agent who became the highest paid guard in the NFL, right? So like, it doesn't matter where you start. It's about how you finish. And the thing that I see about this team is you have a lot of guys that understand culture. They understand competitive excellence. They understand what it takes to win. And people are going to give them opportunities to go show themselves and prove themselves. And so I'm excited for all of them in this next chapter.
I can't believe that Josh Fryer didn't get invited. I mean, he was a multi-year starter at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I think can play guard, probably more of a guard than a tackle at the next level. But
yes,
usually people bring you in to take a look at that. Like that's,
yeah.
Like, I think he's a guy, like there's guys that go to the combine that don't get drafted. There's guys who don't go to the combine who still get drafted. I think he could be one of those guys who doesn't go, who ultimately gets drafted. And that would obviously help that. But I don't know if Ohio State has any like top 10 guys, although Josh Simmons, people are saying, is probably going to be one of the first tackles, if not the first tackle off the board. When that comes around, and Mecca will probably be one of the first wide receivers off the board. I think you're going to have a ton of guys taken from Ohio State between picks like 20 and 90. Like in that late first to third round, you're going to see probably Buckeyes like every 5 or 6 picks just grabbing, because there's a lot of dudes in there that maybe weren't like super elite dudes, but really stinking good at their position and able to get that done. And so, and I think Will Howard's a guy that we've talked about, who's kind of creeping up that draft board as well, Schlegs, when you start talking about everything of where he's going and what he's going to be able to do. So we got that going for us. Also, Schlegs, we can throw this up, the Valentine's Day love. And this is important, Schlegs, because you were married on Valentine's Day.
I was. Nate Ebner got married on Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Nate Ebner got married on your anniversary this past Friday on Valentine's Day. And first of all, how was Nate's wedding? Because I didn't get a chance to go.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, so Nate's mom and Doug, Doug, they also got married on Valentine's Day. So I was like, hey, actually the same year that Steph and I in 2004, and consequently it snowed on Valentine's Day in Dallas, Texas. Hell, Bob, you were there. And my Air Force buddies drank all your booze. But anyways, it was a great day. Got to see John Simon and his wife. Got to see Jake Ballard and Olivia. It was great. Got to see Dane Sanzenbacher and his wife. Like it was just a great time celebrating Nate and Shanae.
That's awesome, man. Super excited. What do you love most about your school's football program? That was thrown up here. A little bit of love. We got Big Nut and Nutman or whatever the guys are.
Yeah, probably not those guys, but I mean the biggest, whatever. But what I love about our program is the state of the leadership and the staff, because that brings in the continuity that you want from a player perspective. When you have guys that recruit at a high level, and Lathan talked about it, like Lathan committed to the university, to Ohio State, in the culture and what that meant. That's big. But then you also follow that up with the relationships of your position coaches, Mark Pantoni, being able to find that type of talent from all over the country, while also making sure that you have the right guys in the building that understand what it means to be a Buckeye. But I, just like Lathan, we're not from here. And I totally got it. One of the reasons why I came here was because of the guys in the room and what being a Buckeye meant and represented. So to me, the culture, the coaching staff, and the guys that we have coming back, that's going to also help them perform at a high level through the support staff, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's what I love about our program the most.
I love it too, Schlegs. And I love Tailgate Talk, brought to you by Real Truck, coming up next.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
Get the most out of work, life, and all your outdoor adventures. with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. Real Truck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select Real Truck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
All right, now we got some tailgate talk brought to you by our friends at Real Truck. Go to Real Truck to outfit your truck, Jeep, Bronco. Bring that thing to life. From bed covers to seat covers to steering wheel covers. They've got all the covers. I don't know if they sell the fuel caps that my plane lost on the way.
Oh,
They
probably
sell just
not.
about everything else you need to accessorize your truck. They'll bring that bad boy to life at realtruck.com, just like Schleggs and I have. And then you can drive it around in the snow, throw a winch on the front if you're going to try to ditch that thing. So maybe you have to pull yourself or pull somebody else out of a ditch and be a good teammate and a good neighbor. You can do that all with Real Truck. If you spend $100, you get free shipping at realtruck.com. How about that? Comments here from our last show last week. Matty P getting too much blame for Detroit. Millen assembled worst roster ever. I don't know if Matt Millen was there then. Oh, Mooch was the previous head coach who was walked over by numerous players. Culture under Mooch was inmates ran the asylum. Patricia's mistake was taking that job. I mean, so Mariucci was there long before us, Schleggs, and Millen was still the GM. We came through, but like, you had Jim Schwartz, then you had Jim Caldwell who was there, but there were some culture issues, and Schwartz had won a little bit. Caldwell had won a little bit. But Dan Campbell's the first guy to ever really win in Detroit. And so some guys, as we talked about, they're better in their second job as a head coach, and sometimes they're just better as coordinators than they are as head coaches too.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing of anybody's maturity in whatever profession you are is just self-introspection and understanding what you do best and how you can achieve that. And, you know, I look at this as like, why would you look at somebody in their prowess as a head coach when you're bringing them in to be the defensive coordinator? To me, this hire is more like, how can you add value to Ohio State, to our coaching staff, and to our players? You know, and I guarantee you a lot of the questions were like, what did you and Bill discuss about the college game that made you interested in taking on this type of opportunity, or at least seeking employment in this profession as opposed to the NFL? And I would love to have heard some of those answers, but I guarantee you that him coming in, the best thing they do in the NFL is they evaluate the talent and they build the scheme around the talent that they possess, because most coaches don't have the ability to hire, draft. What they have an order. Here's what I like in these spots. Go get them. GMs are going to take best available player or that potential. Next thing you know, you might be on your fifth guy that you want in that position. And then how do we acquire guys through free agency? Well, free agency in the NFL is the transfer portal. But who else do we have on our staff that we could develop that fit these pieces? Proof David Copperfield. Talk to your staff. That's why it's so important that everybody's there. They know more about the guys that are currently in the building than Matt Patricia. Here's what could work well for those guys. Boom, lay it out. Here's our foundation of our scheme going into 2025. And I think that and the game management, the ball within the ball, is something that he's going to be able to bring to the table, because that's just a different level at the NFL than it is in college.
All right, coming up next, we got our parting thoughts as we wrap up the show.
Get the most out of work, life, and all your outdoor adventures with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. Real Truck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select Real Truck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
we're going to get to a bunch of pictures and everything tomorrow and stuff, but I did want to throw this out here, Schlegs. This was cool. Got a bunch of challenge coins, and I'll kind of outline them all. But getting back from Guantanamo Bay, and I'll tell you the history of challenge coins, but I did get this one, this bad boy here, and I know it's kind of a little blurry, a little sparkly. Tough to get a good bead on it. But it was a challenge coin. It's presented by the commanding officer, the CO, and the first sergeant of the Marines at Guantanamo Bay. I got to be good friends with the first sergeant that was there. We did a lot of the fishing and everything. That was
That's
around.
sweet.
It's bad. It's pretty.
Was
bad.
Was that him? That was when you guys were out like scuba diving, and I just see this like Neanderthal, like dude from
that was me. I was out there.
That was you. It was you. You literally came out of Atlantis because it's somewhere in the Caribbean. You popped out of Atlantis and you're over there spearfishing with the head Marine sergeant at Guantanamo Bay. It's pretty awesome.
It was awesome. It was cool. We'll get into some more of those stories. We had Lathan today, so I want to make sure we got enough time with him. We'll get into all that, Schleg. So that wraps up today's show. Stay locked in, 12:30 on Tuesday as we talk some more about the Ohio State Buckeyes here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.